Good afternoon. I'm Brady Borrell with KQKI News, visiting with Ochsner Bayou Region CEO Furnace LeBlanc. 1 year ago today, Hurricane Ida made landfall along the Louisiana coastline as an intense Cat 4 hurricane. The storm organized and strengthened very quickly, giving the teams at Ochsner St. Mary Hospital in Morgan City, Ochsner St. Anne Hospital in Raceland, and here at Chabert Medical Center in Homa just 4 days to prepare. And as I just mentioned, 1 year ago today is when Ida made landfall here in South Louisiana. As a matter of fact, all three campuses commemorated that with a moment of silence. And there you see a photo of the teams there at Ochsner St. Mary gathering around the flagpole as they held that moment of silence. Mr. LeBlanc, we appreciate your time as we look back at the events of 1 year ago today and the challenges your teams and facilities faced during the aftermath of Ida.
Yeah, thanks, Brady. It's a pleasure for me to talk with you and the audience today about an event that the Hurricane Ida that happened, 12 months ago. That was a traumatic event. And you mentioned at the beginning of as the introduction, the moment of silence around the flagpole. And I mentioned this morning when we did that, is that not only is it a reflection looking back at what people endured and went through during this tragedy, but it's what people are still going through right now, whether it's the employees that we have in the hospital in their personal lives or the people that are just in the community. So it's not done, and we're still living the aftermath of Hurricane Ida right now.
Tell us about the days and hours leading up to the landfall of Ida. How did your hospitals prepare?
Well, it seems these things always come up pretty quick when they get in the Gulf, and then all of a sudden it's pointing right at you, it's coming, it's going to be bad. So we did the normal things we do in a hospital all the time. We make sure the generators are okay, we have water, we have all the stuff we need to take care of the patient. But one thing that we normally do that we couldn't do this time, and it's do what I call getting skinny. When a hurricane is pointing at us, we normally get light on patients, right? We try to get as many people as we can out of harm's way. But this one was different because we were at the height of COVID. Probably, I think it was maybe our fourth COVID spike in that moment. And so we were dealing with that, which in itself is a challenging enough situation, and you throw a hurricane on top of it. So going into the event, we felt both in St. Mary and across the region that we were well prepared and ready to go for the hurricane.
What was it like inside the hospitals once Ida approached and made landfall?
Well, I think in Morgan City we were blessed that the hurricane was just off of us. We were catching the edges of it. Not to understate what it meant to Morgan City, but I think the brunt of it, like we all know, was towards Lafourche and Terrebonne Parish. So I spent the hurricane. I was at St. Mary for the hurricane, and it was pretty quiet for the most part in the hurricane. And until a little bit later, I think I lose track now. I think it was maybe that night, maybe around 7, 8 o'clock that night. We would do these check-ins with Ochsner. We would have calls, and we would have all the area regional CEOs on that call, and it would be a check-in. Hey, how y'all doing? How's the facility? Do y'all need anything? And around that 8 o'clock mark, if I remember right, that's when we started to get news on one of our calls that the other hospitals were being significantly damaged. And it started with Lady of the Sea. So Lady of the Sea came on, and we were talking about the roof blowing off and just them being in a really bad situation. Then it seemed to kind of move. As the hurricane moved, then St. Anne was having problems, and they were being damaged. And then we were looking at Chabert being damaged, and so on. And I think it even got into Terrebonne and Thibodaux Regional. So at that point, that's when we were on the call, and Ochsner, we were trying to figure out where are all these patients going to go. So we, in Morgan City at St. Mary, quickly, we were like, we're it for the Bayou region, and we wanted to figure out how we were going to take care of as many of those people from the region as we could. So the timeline was, okay, we could take X number of patients into St. Mary, and my question was, when? And the answer was in 6 hours. So it was a significant amount of people that were heading towards St. Mary. So I was challenged, and my team was challenged in standing up basically a new med-surg unit in that 6 hours, which is really unheard of, and it's and it was an extraordinary ask. the team did it. So we were ready just around in the middle of the night, probably like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. However, the patients didn't show up until probably mid-morning the next day. So that's where the intensity really started for us, the same area, and figuring out how we were going to take care of the folks. I got to say during that event that it was special to work with and to see the level of teamwork that we had in the hospital, because at that point, Brady, it was all really all a hands-on-deck mentality but just because not a nurse or I'm a nurse, that all titles and job duties kind of went away, and it was whatever we needed to do to take care of the patients. We saw some remarkable stuff. I'll never forget that in the ED, as the patients were arriving, we were all getting the patients out of the ambulance and bringing them into the hospital. And during an event like this, the maintenance guys in a hospital become all of a sudden front and center, and they become really important. They are every day, but especially during this. And those guys, in a lot of ways, they don't get a lot of rest as the hurricanes come in, because of all the preparations, and also when the hurricanes making landfall. And this is maybe a day or so, like I said, the next day of the hurricane. But I'll never forget coming back in I wheeled a patient up to the floor, and when I'm coming back, I'm going back in the ED, and I look at the double doors that are opening up, and I see one of our maintenance guys. That's his name's I call him Mr. Pat. He's wheeling a patient, out of the ambulance back into the hospital. So, this is a guy that maybe he hadn't slept in a long time, has been really focused on keeping the hospital from a facility standpoint where it needs to be. But he's down there doing his part in taking care of the patients and getting them into the hospital. So that's when I said, man, this is great, all hands on deck, and we're just going to get it done. Shortly after that, team was doing a great job. The floor that we turned into a med-surg unit practically in the matter of hours was operating like they did that for years. And I said this many times, like, hey, I swore an outsider looking into this place has been going like this for 10 years. It was remarkable about what was being done. So the influx that came in was all the patients from this hospital, from Chabert, was a lot of people from Terrebonne, was a lot of people from St. Anne. So not only the patients, but we had all the workers. So we had all the docs, all the staff members, and it quickly became a thing of how do we house all these folks? How do we keep care of our own employees? And that's when it gets into Ochsner and really the benefit of being part of a system and the power that comes with that. I think in Morgan City, Brady, is that during this whole event and really weeks, maybe months afterwards, I had probably every hotel in Morgan City that was going to us, that I had our employees in to make sure that they were there and we were able to take care of the patients.
And how did your teams continue to respond in the weeks following Ida?
Boy, that was tough. As I reflect back, I would make rounds in the hospital and I would talk to the different caregivers or the people working in the hospital just to see how they're doing. And there's some of the folks that I would talk to, and I wouldn't know any different, right? When I'm talking to them and they look fine to me, like they're just there to do their job and then take care of the patient. But when I get to talking to them, I come to find out they lost everything, right? And it just, in those moments, it would really humble me and make me think, I'm like, man, I don't know if I could do that. If I just lost everything personally and lost my house, I don't know the true condition of what it's in. But I'm still here, that committed, taking care of the patients. That was pretty special to me to see that level of commitment and dedication from a lot of people in the hospital. So that was pretty cool.
With the closure of Chabert, St. Anne, obviously those are very challenging times due to the damage. How long did they take before they reopened?
Yeah, look, we got those, both Chabert and St. Anne, that both of the hospitals sustained significant damage. Most of it was the roof, with the roof becoming delaminated and blown off in a lot of areas, which caused a lot of water penetration into the building. Both of them took just over a month to be reopened. And look, through all of this, none of our EDs ever closed. So we never fully closed, right? We had to close down the inpatient side at St. Anna and Chabert, but that was because of the roof and the water penetration. But, because of the support that we received from Ochsner and the system, and throwing in resources and contractors and, engineers and architects, remarkably, the hospitals, or the inpatient side of the hospital, was able to be reopened in just over a month. If we were the first of the hospitals that were shut down, we were the first ones in the region to reopen. So, look, I'm really proud of the work that was done by our facility folks, both at a local level and also at a system level, and all of the folks that came around and supported us to get reopened. And it was, the outpouring of support that we received from New Orleans, from the system, or Ochsner, was, and I was at St. Mary at that point, probably a few days in after the hurricane, Brady, and they were asking us, what else can you do? Continuing to, people needed to go somewhere. And, Ochsner St. Mary was really what I call the oasis of healthcare in the region. We were the beacon. We were the kind of the bright spot. And I'm proud of what we and the folks at the hospital did to take care of everyone from the Bayou region. But we had to scale up. We had to go from what we normally run a daily census of so many patients to really 4 and 5 times that number, to help take care of all the people from the area. And when the support got here from Ochsner, the question was, what do you need? We just went down the list. We need this, and they got all of it for us. So if that was us trying to do this as a standalone hospital, it probably wouldn't have happened. So again, it's the testament of being part of Ochsner and the true benefits and support that they can give a local community hospital.
Looking back, what lessons have you and Ochsner as a whole learned from Ida?
Boy, it's, looking back, it's, you learn a lot from an event like this. And, during the event, one of the big opportunities, Brady, was that it was things that you take for granted every day. And one of those things is just communication, right? Being able to talk with people within the hospital, being able to talk with people, the authorities, whoever it happens to be. And after the hurricane, most people, not just the hospital, we lost communications, and that made ordinary things, an already difficult situation, even more difficult. But there's been a lot of planning that's been done, and just looking forward, learning from that experience is that we just didn't sit on that. We took action, and Ochsner is bringing in an awful lot of technology in terms of communications to make sure that we're better prepared for the next hurricane. Hopefully there's never another one than we ever have been before. So there was a lot of learning that came out of it as well.
If there was anything positive that came out of Ochsner's experience with Ida, what would it be?
Yeah, boy, you try to look for a silver lining and all this stuff, in a tragic event. But, when things get knocked down and damaged, you always figure how you gonna get back up, how you gonna get back up bigger and stronger than you were before. And that's what happened. Our hospitals were damaged, but looking like now versus where we were then, I think all 3 of the hospitals is in a better place than it was prior to the storm because of what the different facility improvements that we've made since the storm. That, looking at it as a positive, it was really an opportunity to get this stuff done. So there's that. So from a facility standpoint, we're bigger, better than what we were before. And also, the folks that went through this event, it creates a certain bond between the employees. Is that when we walk around the hospital now, people just, I think, have a different level of respect for folks that they worked with, that they went through this event with. So it's really been a bonding thing for the folks across the region as well.
We've been visiting with Ochsner Bayou Region CEO Furnace LeBlanc, who has joined us as we have recalled their response to Hurricane Ida 1 year ago today. Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc, for joining us today.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Brady. Look forward to talking to you guys again. Thank y'all.
And I'm Brady Borrell for KQKI News, your local news and sports leader. Have a great day.